Hallo und willkommen zu Lonestar. Wir spielen Agatha Christie, die ABC Murders. Wir sind in dem Hotelzimmer vom ABC. Ich habe vergessen, wie er heißt. Und mal schauen. Cast. Irgendwas. Ey, Bonaparte Cast hat er geheißen. Wir sollen uns hier im Raum umschauen. Und irgendwas haben wir nicht gefunden. Jetzt würde ich einfach sagen, hier ist noch was. Ist das Blut?
This dark stain. It could be blood, but goodness knows how long it has been there.
Kann sich auch beim
Let us now
Rasieren
try
geschnitten
and get
haben.
how brain cells to work.
Oder er könnte da Probleme mit seiner Lunge haben, dass er einfach Blut aushusten muss. Where was Cast at the time of the Bexhill murder? Cast's room was rented to someone else on July the 25th. Key to AB Cast's room. Betty had a photo of her Donald. The Bexhill local paper dating from the day of Betty's murder was found in Cast's room. Basing dress. Miss Marbury bared the basing dress at the start of July. Also der Raum wurde jemand anderem gegeben. Basing passt nicht. Cast was probably in Bexhill on the day of the murder.
The register shows that Cust did not sleep at the guest house on the day of the murder. Where was he? Bexhill. The Bexhill paper reveals it. Cust bought this newspaper in Bexhill on July the 25th.
Ach so.
No
Okay,
use
okay.
continuing the inspection of this room. I've seen all there is to see.
Jetzt haben wir die Katze gar nicht gefunden.
Goodbye, Mrs. Marbury. Thank you for your help.
Bye.
Chief Inspector. I was about to leave.
Good evening, Chief Inspector. Welcome. Please excuse me, I must go to the kitchen. I'll leave the key of Mr. Cust on the counter.
Haben wir den zurückgegeben überhaupt, den
I'm
Schlüssel?
sorry I'm late. I've spent ages with the Doncaster police. And you?
I have established one fact. On 3 occasions, Cust was at the scene on the day of the crimes.
Oh, dann werden sie ihn demnächst aufhängen wollen, hm?
I had best talk to Job.
I've listened closely to what you have to say, Poirot. For me, there's no doubt Cust is guilty. Do you have any element that might prove the contrary?
That is what we're going to look for. Let us now try and get our brain cells to work.
Was it possible for Cast to have killed the 3 victims? Cast was in Churston on the day of Sir Clark's murder. All the letters sent to Poirot came from from his typewriter. Cast was in Bexhill on the day of Betty Barnard's murder. He keeps newspapers that talk about the murders. Es ist aber erst später gewesen. He has a knife, like the one used to stab Mr. Sir Carmichael. Das bedeutet ja gar nichts. He lied about his destination. Wissen wir davon? Hat er da gelogen? Cast was in Andover on the day of Alice Asher's murder. Cast was in all the towns. Are there any common points between Cast and the killer? He has ABC guides at home. Aber vermutlich haben das viele Leute. Dann all the letters sent to Poirot came from his typewriter. Das ist schon hart. Also das ist ja nur schwer dann zu sagen, wie das anders hätte sein sollen. Aber wie gesagt, der wurde ihm ja auch zur Verfügung gestellt von der komischen Firma. Und wer weiß, ob es die Firma überhaupt gibt. Wenn es sie nicht gibt, dann wäre das ein Hinweis, dass das nur ein Plot ist, um ihn dran zu hängen, weil er so einen schönen Namen hat. ABC. He keeps the newspapers that talk about the murders. Ja, das könnte eine Verbindung sein. He has a knife, like the one used to stab Sir Carmichael. Wurde wirklich gestabbt? Dachte, he had blood on him, naja. He suffers from him. Nehmen wir mal das Messer. He could have committed these crimes. His Cust's behavior is suspicious. He keeps the newspapers that talk about the murder. He lied about his destination. Das war, was er zu ihr gesagt hat, er ist woanders hingefahren. He had blood on him. Guilty. As charged.
The evidence against Cust is overwhelming. His presence at the scenes, the knife, the blood-stained shirt, the ABCs in a box.
C'est vrai. However, the blood Mrs. Marbury saw on Cust's shirt may have been his own. According to his medical records, he suffers from hemoptysis. The murderer cut Sir Carmichael's throat from behind, and the blood spurted outwards. You would expect the murderer's shirt to be stained on the sleeves, not on the buttonholes, yet we see quite the opposite. You would expect the murderer to keep the newspaper articles about his crimes. But Cust's collection starts in Cheston, as if it discovered the case rather late.
Aha, hab ich auch gesagt.
I agree it's troubling, but it doesn't change my mind. There's small details that we should be able to clear up by questioning Cust.
When can we talk to him?
Doncaster is sending him to us on the first train.
Are they questioning him already?
He says he can't remember a thing.
It's plausible. Doctors say he suffers from absences and amnesia. Mrs. Marbury has confirmed this.
He may have done the murders in an altered state.
A familiar situation.
It's not enough to clear his name. Dr. Thompson insisted that even if you don't know what you're doing, you never commit a murder without wanting to.
Très intéressant. I shall remember that.
Right. I'll go and examine the suspect's room.
Wer hat
Chief
das
Inspector,
gesagt?
I took the liberty of removing a few clues to examinatum.
All right, we'll discuss them tomorrow. In the meantime, I'm going to see if you've missed something.
Ja, ich schätze mal, dann können wir das Taxi nehmen.
To Scotland Yard, please.
Ganz schön wackelig, dieses Taxi. Da ist er.
This man is not in good shape.
Shaking hands. Lowered eyes.
He is
Crumpled
worried
jacket.
and very tired. And other police have been hard on him.
What do you want from me?
Alexander heißt er. Ask if he knows who is speaking to him. Ask who he is. Present yourself. Oh, ich würde sagen, wir fangen mal damit an. Wir sagen natürlich, wer wir sind.
Good day, Mr. Cust. I am Hercule Poirot.
Ah, you're the detective.
Talk about the letters. Ask why he sent the letters.
Why did you send me a letter before each crime?
Why all these questions? When are you going to stop pestering me?
Acknowledge his innocence. Get him to admit that he has forgotten.
Très bien. You did not hide these letters. But the question remains, who did?
Probably one of my enemies. I have many.
Okay. Leider dann Verfolgungswahn. Ask if he is capable of killing. Accuse him of being a killer. Admit that you do not believe that he is a murderer. Ja, gibt einfach nur ein gutes Opfer her.
I do not believe that you are capable of murder, Mr. Cust.
I hope not.
Aha, er ist sich selber nicht ganz sicher. Sag ja, Opfer. Insist on the fact that he enjoyed the war, das glaube ich nicht. Get him to talk about the army.
You suffered during the war.
It's true. I was wounded. I suffered. But the army was the only place I didn't feel inferior. No questions. Just orders to follow.
Ja, manche Leute mögen sowas.
But ever since you were wounded, you have absences, bouts of amnesia.
And headaches.
Professor Clark treated you.
Yes, a few years ago he really helped me with my burned throat.
Accuse him of Dr. Clarks murder. Accuse him of the 3 murders. Get him to believe he is innocent. Ja, ich würde mal sagen, das war...
Of course, you never considered killing a doctor who took such good care of you.
No, never.
Ask him if he acknowledges going to the 3 towns. Say that witnesses saw him in the 3 towns. Kann er sich daran erinnern? Haben wir dafür Zeugen? Ich weiß es nicht mehr.
You were seen at all the crime scenes.
Yes, I was. I travel a lot, but not for pleasure. I am terribly unwell in trains.
Also er
But I
mag
had to
keine
respect my
Züge.
engagements. My employer gave me very precise written instructions about the towns I had to visit.
Let's see. The company you claim to work for, Silky Legs, has never heard of you. And as for these letters they sent you, they were written on your own typewriter.
The company sent me the typewriter when I started working for them.
Yes, but the letters were received afterwards.
So it would appear that you typed them before sending them to yourself. It proves that you wrote them. Aber das ist ja beides nicht richtig, ja. Aber das mit dem before ist dann noch
So
besser.
it would appear that you typed them before sending them to yourself.
Achso, it appeared. Okay.
I don't remember. Good God! I don't know what's happening to me. My head hurts terribly.
Kann man ihm Medizin geben?
Take this. It will help you.
Das ist jetzt seine eigene Medizin. Vielleicht sollten wir ihm die andere auch noch geben.
I think I'll be fine.
Let us see, Cust. Look at me. You know very well that you committed these murders?
Yes, I know.
But I'm not wrong in saying that you do not know why you committed them.
No, I don't.
Ja, wurde unter Hypnose gesetzt, aber es passt doch trotzdem nicht, oder? Ach, die andere Medizin haben wir nicht mehr. Können wir ihm das zeigen? Nee. Talk to Chap.
Let us leave Cust alone. He's at the end of his tether.
And what conclusions have you drawn?
Plenty. It might help us to understand him a little better. Let us now try and get our brain cells to work.
What do we know about Cust's health? He says he did not write the letters. He suffers. He had blood on him. He has problems with his throat. You would expect the murderer to keep newspaper articles about all the crimes. He suffers from absences. Cass is mentally and physically weak, not really the profile of our killer. Are there any clues that do not support Cass' guilt in the Churston murder? Churston. Mrs. Marbury saw Cass' shirt with stains on the buttonholes. Genau, das passt ja nicht. Und das Blut ging in die andere Richtung. You would expect the murderer's shirt to be stained on the sleeves and not the buttonholes. Yet we see quite the opposite. Das hat er ja vorhin selber gesagt. Also, dass wir das jetzt nochmal rausholen mussten. Are there any clues that do not support Cass' guilt? We had no reason. Naja, gut. Was soll man dabei schon um Psychopathen sagen? Hm? He did not appear to recognize Poirot. Und wieso sollte er? Das würde ich mal sagen. He says he did not write the letters. He had blood on him. He did not appear to recognize Poirot. He had no reason to kill them. Dann vielleicht noch den mit dem Poirot, weil die Briefe gingen ja immer an Poirot mit der Ankündigung der Morde. Es muss also jemand gewesen sein, der Poirot kennt, und zwar ziemlich genau, der auch weiß, wo er wohnt. Und dass ihn das interessieren würde. Und da würde er sicher auch wissen, wer es ist. There are several details which show that Cass is not guilty. Can we say without a shadow of a doubt that Cass is guilty? Okay, es fehlt. He had blood on him. Dann müssen eigentlich die zwei sein. Not guilty.
I don't see any clearer than before. This is worse.
There is one point to highlight. C'est curieux. Cass admits that he killed, but he does not know why. What did Dr. Thompson say? Even if Cass killed while in an altered state, it still must have been his deepest desire. He must have had a motive.
Let's keep it simple. Never mind his motive. He confessed.
But you see, he can confess to anything and everything. He denied the murders and then he confessed to them. He confirmed that he never typed the letters. Then, with great ease, I managed to get him say quite the opposite.
Come on, he behaved like a guilty man. He lied to his landlady.
Because deep down he believes himself guilty. From the papers, he noticed that he had always been at the scene of the crimes. He must think that he killed and then simply forgot what he had done.
How can you be so sure?
Let us look at his psychological profile. You will understand my point of view. Let us now try and get our brain cells to work.
Ist Cass clever? Naja, ich glaube nicht. He had blood on him, passt nicht. Oh, it wasn't for pleasure. He was always unwell on brains. Nein, das passt dann zu dem, ob er gerne... Das sind ja die Fragen, die wir haben über den Mörder. Und ob er zum Beispiel, dass es jemand sein muss, der Züge mag, aber er mag keine Züge. So. Er ist auch nicht generous, sondern er benutzt das so lange, wie er es hat, weil er ist eine arme Sau. The army was the only place I didn't feel inferior. No questions, just orders followed. He was very hesitant and shy. Usually door-to-door salesmen are very confident, but he wasn't. Ist aber mit confident. Oh, was ist denn das hier? Ein ganzer Roman. I've suspected him for some time, but he appeared so harmless. Oh yeah, sometimes he got angry and waved his arms about, but even then, he wasn't frightening. And he was as gentle as a lamb. Again, immediately afterwards. It was only this morning that I understood. Medium size, glasses, dark suit, and a felt hat. Not the sort of man you've noticed. Completely harmless. Dann nehmen wir das mit der Armee. Wo war das? Hier. Passt nicht zusammen. Mediocre. Self-confident. Self-confident ist er nicht. Easy to influence. Seducer. Er war völlig unauffällig. Without any charm. Likes trains. Genau, jetzt passt das. Er mag keine Züge. Sauerei übrigens. Does not like trains. Is Cast impulsive? Cold. He's completely harmless. Tatsächlich cold? Generous? Nee.
You see? Cust's character is quite the opposite of the murderer's.
But if he's a madman, can we really talk about his character?
You know very well that our murderer does not behave like a psychopath. Apart from the signature, there is no ritual repetition in the choice of victims.
Very well, you're right as always. So we have no confession, no culprit, no suspects, nothing. And all that after 2 months of inquiry? What should I do?
Have faith. Just give me 24 hours.
So, das ist vor Scotland Yard. Haben wir uns hier eigentlich mal umgeschaut? Ja, da haben wir mal hingeguckt gehabt. Ach, dann nehmen wir halt wieder das Taxi. Muss der das die ganze Zeit laufen lassen?
To Whitehaven, please.
Whitehaven? Ich dachte mal, es heißt Haven oder so. Naja.
Cust's arrest is a great success for you, Poirot. It's all clear now, except maybe 1 or 2 details.
Details. Ah, mon ami. The devil is in the detail, as we say.
Excuse me?
Patience, Hastings. Everything will be clear once our guests arrive. Best be prepared. Slip a revolver into your pocket before they do.
A revolver? But Poirot, what are you afraid of?
Trust me. It is important you carry a weapon for this meeting. I will lend you mine.
What about telling me what you have in mind?
Surtout pas. You wouldn't be able to play your role. Wait 1 moment, I will bring you my weapon.
Ja, das hatten wir, glaube ich, auch mal in der Serie. Mit dem Revolver. Welchen Buchstaben haben wir heute? Müsste es nicht D sein? Das müssen wir das andere wieder anschauen. Sonst kommen wir da nicht raus. Hastings Hunting.
Hastings Fotoalbum.
Ja. Brauchbar. Okay. Gehen wir, glaube ich, mal andersrum. Ob wieder eine neue Zeitung gekommen ist. Halt, wenn wir schon mal hier sind. Bitte in den Spiegel schauen. Er hat diesmal die Bewegung nicht gemacht, aber er hat reingeguckt. Und wir haben dafür noch ein paar Ego-Punkte bekommen. Ich glaube, hier war die Waffe drin. Haben wir da einen Schlüssel?
The white ammunition are blank cartridges. The others are real bullets.
Revolver. Da ist schon eine Patrone drin, so wie es
I
ausschaut.
have to choose the type of bullets to load.
Was war was?
The revolver is loaded with blanks. I still have time to choose real bullets.
Ach so, das sind echte und das sind hier Platzpatronen. Wir können dem Täter dann die Waffe in die Hand drücken und der kann dann selber damit schießen.
Daily Flicker, September the 11th, 1935. ABC affair, Terminus Doncaster. Japp and Poirot arrest the killer. A.B. Cust is the name of the alphabet murderer. The police have arrested him in a hotel in Doncaster. Was preparing to kill his fourth victim, Mr. Dick Dudley Dunbar, the establishment manager. Mr. Dunbar owes his life to the miraculous intervention of Inspector Japp of Scotland Yard and Detective Hercule Poirot. The Lancet, September 11th, 1935. General Medical Journal. The alphabet murderer is not psychotic, according to Professor Thompson. In an early issue, we claimed that the alphabet murderer was not psychotic. Our assertion has just been confirmed by Professor Thompson, a Scotland Yard expert, who has spoken to the prisoner at great length. Not all obsessional killers are psychotic, he explained. It is true that Cust has a disturbed personality and memory disorders. But his amnesia, whether real or pretended, does not alter the fact that he was perfectly lucid at the time of his acts. Therefore, he will not escape punishment.
Wir haben also die Zeitung nochmal gelesen. Jetzt schauen wir mal an den Schreibtisch. Gibt es hier noch was? Ja, wir können uns zumindest mal hinsetzen. Machen wir nochmal den Ventilator an.
Ah, some cool hair.
Nice. So. Bring the revolver. Das haben wir ganz vergessen. Ich wollte darüber laufen, nicht das angucken. Hastings?
What about telling me what you have in mind?
Surtout pas. You wouldn't be able to play your role. Wait one moment, I will bring you my weapon.
Okay. Er soll sie selber laden, oder was? Aber dann merkt er das doch sofort, dass es die falschen Patronen
Voilà,
sind.
I entrust you with my weapon. It has hardly been used, it is almost new.
Das Telefon klingelt. Wir müssen wieder selber rangehen.
Chief Inspector, is that you?
Yes. Sorry, but we haven't found anything.
Have you checked the typewriter?
And the packaging, the letter, and the ribbon reel. We've only found prints left by Cust and his landlady.
Well, never mind, I shall make do.
So, are you still going to hold your meeting?
Of course, Chief Inspector. I can hear my guest coming up the stairs.
Why have you brought us here, Mr. Poirot?
Since Cust's arrest, I thought it was all done and dusted. Miss Gray formally identified him, as well as Miss Barnard.
Yes, and the stockings he saw drove the same brand as the ones found at my aunt's.
This is all true. However, a case is not closed if some questions remain open. And one question is, why did the murderer send me his letters? Why did he challenge me, Hercule Poirot?
Perhaps he wanted to play with you, to taunt you.
Xenophobia? Maybe he didn't like you because you're foreign.
I may be wrong, but maybe by provoking you, he was looking for glory?
All these theories should be studied. Let us now try and get our brain cells to work.
Es hat nicht jeder was vorgeschlagen. Why did the murderer make a mistake in the address? Oh, das sind aber viele. A piece of the envelope. Body was still warm. The letter's late arrival saved the murderer. Poirot's address is not well known, das stimmt. The murderer challenged Poirot because he has an inferiority complex. The murderer challenged Poirot for glory. The error in the address caused the letter to be delivered late. Sind das vielleicht alles die Grünen? The murderer challenged Poirot out of xenophobia. The murderer always warned Poirot about his murders. The mistake is intentional. Why did the killer send his letter to Hercule Poirot? Die Adresse kennt ja kaum jemand. He wrote to Poirot because...
Is everything clear now?
You might like to explain your reasoning again.
Of course. First of all, remember that the murderer made it a rule to always post his letter before the murder. He never digressed from that rule. However, in Churston, he encountered a problem. The village has only 500 inhabitants. With advance warning, it would be easy to arrest him. Therefore, the murderer delayed his letters deliberately with the wrong address. The plan wouldn't have worked if he'd sent it to Scotland Yard or the papers because everybody knows their addresses. The mistake would have been corrected and the letter would have been on time. That is why the murderer chose me as the recipient.
Because for his plan to succeed, it was necessary for at least one of the letters to have a wrong address and get lost. It was very cunning.
Absolument. It is a very subtle plan. It matches the profile we have drawn up of him perfectly. That of an intelligent, daring and calculating murderer.
But that's not how you describe Cust.
You are quite right, mademoiselle. Like you, I find it hard to believe that this dull character is the clever murderer we are looking for.
Do madmen... I mean, if he's mad, he might have two very different sides.
Dr.
No
Jekyll and
doubt.
Mr. Hyde.
But the murderer is not mad. All the specialists agree that he does not have the profile of a psychopath.
But if Cust is not guilty, how do you explain his presence at the scene of the crimes?
Mr. Clark, the answer to your question is in the medical records of your brother's patients. Documents which Cust most certainly did not have access to. Let us now try and get our brain cells to work.
Ja, und es gibt nicht viele, die Zugriff darauf hatten. Nämlich den Bruder und die... wie heißt sie wieder? Die Mrs. Grey hier. Außerdem wollte ich mal sagen, dass mit dem Brief, dass wenn da ein Fehler in der Adresse drin ist, dann wäre der bei der Deutschen Post, wäre der einfach zurück an den Absender gegangen und nicht versucht worden, den noch zuzustellen, oder? What do we know about Cust? Cust is easily influenced. Tries to overcome his travel sickness. Cust buys newspapers to report on the case. He wanted to see the crime scene. Alice, Asher, and Betty Barnard are in the Dr. Clark's medical records. Cust was a door-to-door salesman. It is a coincidence that he went to the victim's town. Nein. Cust went to Bexhill because he wanted to swim. Cust was in the war and has never been quite the same in the head since. Cust was wounded during the war, das ist fast dasselbe. The murderer found a way to access Dr. Clark's medical records and tried to burn them in order to hide his tracks. Ja, das kann man, oder? Aber das passt jetzt nicht zu der Frage, das da passt. Cust is mentally fragile and easy to manipulate. How to explain Cust's presence at the crime scene? Er wurde da ja hingeschickt. Okay, dann passt das mit den Medical Records. Und dann ist vielleicht das hier mit den anderen Medical Records. Cass was manipulated. The killer made him go.
Dr. Clark's patient's records provided a very useful list of potential victims, sorted by alphabetical order. The killer definitely used it, explaining the fact that all the victims were former patients of the doctor. It is this fact that clears Cust once and for all, because he never had access to these records. So how did he happen to be at the scene of the crimes? Either the murderer sent him there, or Cust was following him closely. Cust's highly suggestible nature leads us to the second hypothesis. The murderer was manipulating him. He systematically sent Cust to the towns where he was going to strike, so that the suspicion would land on the poor man's shoulder.
That's evil. What sort of killer could have such a plan? And what would he gain from 3 completely different murders?
Indeed, it seems unlikely that the same murderer committed all the crimes. What should we take from that?
Say that just one murder is of interest to the killer. Say that the killer has developed a taste for murder. Say that the murderer kills for pleasure. Say that there are 3 murderers. Das sind alles zu viele Mörderer. War alles zum Verdecken.
Just one murder was of benefit to the murderer. The others were just diversions. On reflection, there is only one conclusion. The murderer killed once out of interest, and twice to divert our attention. This reasoning points at 2 potential culprits.
Franklin Clark.
Donald Fraser?
Yes, mademoiselle. That's good thinking. Mr. Fraser may have killed Betty out of jealousy. Mr. Clark may have killed his brother in order to inherit his large fortune. Both have a motive.
But Donald did not have access to Dr. Clark's records.
Please allow me to disagree with you, mademoiselle.
Indicate that Donald was treated by Dr. Clark. Indicate that Donald's firm worked for Clark, das wissen wir. Indicate that Donald was resting at Churston, das wissen wir nicht.
He works for Court and Brunskill, one of whose clients was Sir Carmichael.
It doesn't prove that I went to Comeside.
You could have done it, and you may have used the opportunity to take a look at Sir Carmichael's records.
You think I'm guilty?
You or Mr. Franklin Clark?
That's ridiculous.
Both of you have a motive. The question is, which of you has the profile that most resembles the murderer? Let us now try and get our brain cells to work.
Ist Donald clever? Ja, sonst würde er nicht in der Firma arbeiten. I sleep on the train. Okay, das passt besser. I like trains. Yes, women seem to like him. Das ist auch verdächtig. Was an awful scene. She told him that until they were married, she was free to go with whoever she pleased. Donald turned quite pale and started shaking and kept saying, "One day, one day." He's a bright man with a promising career ahead of him. Ja, das passt. Mr. Poirot, since Betty's death, I have doubts about myself. I don't know what to do. Na gut, er kann ja gelogen haben. He would have made Betty a good husband. He's always attentive and generous, a true gentleman. Megan really liked Donald Fraser. He is clever. Self-confident. Ja, das kann er gelogen haben. Easy to influence. Okay. Seducer. Ja, die Frauen haben ihn gemocht. He was a seducer. He likes trains. Sehr schön. Ja, wer mag denn keine Züge, bitte? Also, Züge sind toll. He's cold. Ja, das ist er nicht wirklich, ne? Mit dem One Day ist da eher der impulsive Typ. Quick-tempered. Ist Donald generous? Ja, er ist generous.
Ladies and gentlemen, Donald may share many character traits with the murderer, but he does not have his cold indifference. He has a temper. It is hard to imagine him planning anything. Also, jealousy is his motive, and crimes of passion are rarely planned.
Right, I suppose it's my turn to be subjected to the same scrutiny.
Absolument, Mr. Clark.
Ja, natürlich. Was hat er denn
Let us
erwartet?
now try and get our brain cells to work.
Außerdem trägt er die ganze Zeit Handschuhe. Ist Franklin clever? Auf jeden Fall. Zora is evasive about her relationship with Sir Carmichael. School report for Franklin Clark. According to his teachers, Franklin was a good student, but lacked of discipline. Clever. Den Rest haben wir noch gar nicht angeschaut. Self-confident. Take Franklin. He's fallen for her sweet-talking charms. He's a lovely boy, very plucky and sure of himself. But he is so naive when it comes to women. Passt auch. Haben den Rest wieder nicht gelesen. He's a seducer. Dear Franklin, first, I wish you a good start to a successful new year. I have received your letter dated December the 10th. Thank you for defending my interests against Wang, this robber. Things could have gone pretty bad if you weren't a real cold-blooded guy. Ah, I envy you for that. Come on, Poirot, I'm a married man. And Miss Grey is already being courted by Franklin Clark. The Railway Children E. Nesbitt. It is normal that people helping with this inquiry should be reimbursed. Also er ist generous. He's a seducer. He likes trains. Likes trains. He's cold. Stone cold, wenn es nach dem Brief geht. He's generous.
As you have all seen, there is a disturbing similarity between Mr. Clark's profile and that of the killer. In actual fact, it is exactly the same.
Mr. Poirot, your psychological studies are interesting, but your conclusions do not add up. Why would I have wished my brother's death? The inheritance is lawfully mine. I just have to wait.
No, you had to act quickly.
Say that Zora Grey bothered him. Say that Franklin was impatient.
Because of Miss Grey. Mademoiselle, although you haven't been telling the truth, there is no doubt in my mind that you would have found a way to marry Sir Carmichael after Lady Clark's death. For you, Mr. Clark, it was a disaster. If Miss Grey had children by your brother, you would not have inherited a thing. You realized the danger after reading several letters from Comside, especially one in which your brother opened his heart to you. So you hurried home from China, and you took action.
Ist aber nicht nett.
In truth, Cust was no more than a puppet manipulated by the real culprit. You, Mr. Clark.
Such an imagination, Mr. Poirot. In fact, nobody manipulated Cust. The famous instructions he received by post. He wrote them on the typewriter. We know that for sure.
Oh no. You know perfectly well. That is not true. Eh bien voilà. Light has now been shed on the ABC murders.
Your theories are ingenious, but you haven't any proof.
One point to him. For the moment, I have no material proof. Either I admit to it, or I bluff.
Okay, was kann man sagen? Invent an item of proof found in Alice Asher's tobacco shop. Zeit, es wäre nur bei einem. Say the proof is going to be easy to find. Ja, das kann man natürlich immer sagen. Lie about the fingerprints found on Cust's typewriter. Lügen gehört auch immer zu Poirot. Ich würde sagen, wir lügen.
One thing proves it. The prints you left on Cust's typewriter.
Enough.
Oh, of course you wiped the typewriter before sending it. But not carefully enough. Scotland Yard has found your print along with those of Cust.
I understand why you never wanted to lend me your new typewriter. And why you were searching through your brother's things. And the hole you dug on the moors. What did you hide there? The knife you used to kill your brother?
Game, set, match. You win, Mr. Poirot. But it was worth trying.
Naja.
Don't come near me! I'll never let you take me, Mr. Poirot!
Das Ohr ist jetzt kaputt. Und auch aus der Entfernung sind auch Platzpatronen hochgefährlich.
I'm sorry, Mr. Clark, there is no easy death for you. I expected your reaction, so I used blanks. I'm sorry, mademoiselle, but your second chance has been lost. Franklin Clark will never inherit his brother's fortune.
Tja, die Zora Grey geht also auch leer aus. Schade, dass es so ruckelt.
Disappointed at having missed the chance to become Lady Clark, Thora Grey left England. Donald Fraser and Megan Barnard married.
Echt, dieser schreckliche Typ, der seine Freundin bedroht hat.
On Poirot's recommendation, Mary Drower started to work for Lady Clark. The elderly lady's condition suddenly took a turn for the better. And a few months later, to Dr. Logan's great surprise, she was back on her feet again. According to this eminent physician, it appears to be an extremely rare case of spontaneous remission. Lady Clark has enjoyed very good health ever since.
Ja, und vielleicht erbt sie dann.
Journal of an Innocent. The incredible story of ABC. As for A.B. Cust, after being advised by Poirot, he made a great deal of money by selling his story to the press. And as for me, and with business booming, the Black Swan has become the #1 tourist attraction in the whole of Yorkshire, even more popular than York Minster.
Bevor wir den Abspann hier jetzt noch laufen lassen, würde ich sagen, schneiden wir hier noch was von den Extras mit rein. Da gibt es nochmal eine Übersicht über den gesamten Fall.
When Franklin understands that his brother's inheritance is going to be stolen from under his nose, he decides to get rid of him. In order not to be considered as a suspect, he has the idea of including the murder as part of a series that the police will put down to a madman. Franklin uses Sir Carmichael's medical records to choose his victims as well as the ideal suspect, Alexander Bonaparte Cust, who was seriously wounded in the war and suffers from bouts of amnesia. Franklin writes the letters he will send me before each murder on his own typewriter in advance. He contacts Cust by letter and offers him a job. Cust is convinced that he is working for a hosiery company. In reality, it is Franklin that sends him his instructions, his goods, and even his typewriter. When we receive the first letter, Hastings thinks that it is a joke. As for me, filled with foreboding, I prefer to inform Chief Inspector Japp. Following his written instructions, Cust goes to Andover. He visits Mrs. Asher's tobacco shop and sells her a pair of stockings. After Cust's visit, Franklin, in turn, enters the tobacco shop. Mrs. Asher is not suspicious of the murderer, whom she takes to be an ordinary customer. The old lady turns around to take a packet of cigarettes. She is beaten to death. We investigate the first murder with Hastings. No suspect has a motive. A few weeks later, we receive a second letter signed ABC. Chief Inspector Japp is informed. The victim's name should start with the letter B. Alexander Bonaparte Cust goes to Bexhill. He sells Mrs. Barnard a pair of stockings. Betty Barnard leaves her work. She's dressed to go out. The young woman is strangled on the beach. Betty was killed by the man who had arranged to meet her that evening, the seducer Franklin Clark. In Bexhill, Donald Fraser appears to be the perfect suspect for Betty's murder, but he has no connection with Mrs. Asher. 5 days after the Bexhill murder, Cust goes to Churston for his work. In the afternoon, Soagre turns away a stocking seller. After dinner, Sir Carmichael Clark takes his usual walk. His brother waits for him, hidden behind a bush. The murderer leaps out from his hiding place and cuts Sir Clark's throat. The third letter arrived late. Franklin deliberately wrote a wrong address. In Churston, Thorogray and Franklin Clark are the main suspects. Back in London, Cust is seized by violent coughing fit and brings up blood. He stains his shirt, which later frightens his landlady. We receive the final letter from ABC. The next murder will be in Doncaster. The second general meeting in London highlights the common point between the victims, stockings and a throat condition. Custer's landlady telephones Scotland Yard to tell them about her suspicions. Cust is arrested shortly afterwards in Doncaster. Franklin had planned a fourth murder in Doncaster. He abandons the idea after Custer's arrest. Cust confesses to the crimes he did not commit. He's an easy culprit. Too easy. Franklin Clark is unmasked. He is the true culprit and the man who manipulated Cust. And there we have it. Another case solved by Hercule Poirot.
Das war's. Ja, das ist schon ein älteres Spiel. Aber ich muss sagen, gefällt mir doch eigentlich ganz gut. Ja. Ich meine, es waren so ein paar Sachen drin, wo man sich sagt, das hätte eigentlich mittlerweile, gehört das eigentlich gepatcht. Warum zum Beispiel das Telefon erst klingelt, wenn man neu lädt. Ist doch irgendwie seltsam. Naja, ist vielleicht irgendein Kompatibilitätsproblem, das ich da hatte. Ansonsten lief es ja jetzt eigentlich ganz gut. Die meisten Figuren haben ja so ganz gut gefallen vom Zeichenstil. Der Hastings jetzt nicht so. Und wie ich ja schon gesagt habe, von der Stimme her war der Chap vielleicht ein bisschen enttäuschend. Aber ansonsten war es wirklich wieder sehr gut vertont. Also diese ganzen Detektivspiele da haben doch meistens wirklich eine sehr gute Vertonung. Also muss man sagen, das gefällt mir doch ganz gut. Von den Rätseln her, es war so zwischendrin ein bisschen so Escape Room-mäßig. Da waren irgendwie so viele Rätsel in einem Raum, dass mich gedacht hat, wer hat denn sowas da alles zu Hause? Naja. Von der Story her war es nah genug dran, dass man sich denkt, ja, da fühlt man sich zu Hause. Ne? So die Story, die kennt man doch so. Von der Serie hier zum Beispiel. Auf der anderen Seite waren auch dann ein paar neue Sachen mit drin. Glaube ich, das war ein ganz guter Mix. Und überhaupt die ganze Anlehnung an die Serie. Das hat auch dann gleich einen sympathischen Eindruck gemacht. Es hat mir sehr gut gefallen, dass denen offensichtlich auch diese Serie so gut gefallen hat. Ja, so wie immer lasse ich den Abspann noch ein bisschen laufen und ich würde sagen, verabschiede mich schon mal. Machen wir an dieser Stelle also ein kleines Päuschen und ich hoffe, es hat euch gefallen und wir sehen uns das nächste Mal.
The killer enters the shop. Mrs. Asher turns around to greet her customer. The murderer asks her for some tobacco. She turns her back to him. He seizes the opportunity to strike her. He then places the ABC upside down before leaving. Everything appears to match the crime scene, mon cher Hastings. That is exactly what happened.